Hey guys, if you haven't played the 2.1 story quest, Act 3, Omnipresence Over Mortals, I would suggest not listening to this video, as there is going to be major spoilers ahead. Alright, so, we're going to get into the gist of the video here. We're going to be talking about Rosalind Kreutzke Lefalter. I'm assuming that's how you say her name. I could be wrong, but she is known as the Crimson Witch of Flames. And basically, in the lore of the Crimson Witch of Flames artifact set, where you can read all the different, descriptions and whatnot, you can actually read the talent level up material for La Signora, who I believe is, the Crimson Witch of Flames. So if we look over the Witch's Flower of Blaze, it says, a flower touched by the witch, who once dreamt of burning away all the demons in the world. The anonymous flames affectionately caress the hands of those who touch it. A common species of flower, it is curiously capable of resisting the Crimson Witch's flames. A crisis centuries ago dashed all hope of the maiden seeing the future promised to her. Those dear to her, her past days, and her bright future, all gone. From the ashes, the Crimson Witch of Flame was born, and she burned away her pain with fire. So basically, she burned away her mortal body with fire, and her flower, I guess, had stayed resilient, soft, and moist. I'm not sure what that means, but I'm guessing she took on a new body or something along the lines of, carrying her soul and things like that. All because of, her loved one in Mondstadt passing away, which we'll get into in a little bit. But I want to go over the other pieces. So, about the plume, it's a forever burning bird feather. The fire shall burn for all eternity. So I'm assuming this is, a phoenix or something like that. Something that can burn for all eternity, and whenever it passes away, it rises up again out of the ashes. So, I don't know. I'm kind of curious about that, to be honest. The fire shall burn for all eternity, it says. Scorched earth followed her in wake, for she chose a path of hellfire. Though her fires only touched monsters and demons, people still cowered behind closed windows and tried to drive her away. But none of that mattered to her. New hopes were birthed from the fires of old pains. She needed not comforting nor sympathy. Chirping by her side, the birds gave her all the understanding she needed. Alright. Now her timepiece says, a small vessel containing a high-temperature liquid. It is said to be the molten soul of evil spirits. A special hydro timepiece given to the Crimson Witch before calamity struck, which I believe that was from Rostam. I believe he gave her that, if I can see, yes, Rostam gave her a special hydro timepiece to keep track of the amount of time that she was away studying at Sumeru Academia. So that's pretty curious. And obviously, the Chinese version or whatever does not differentiate water in a general sense and the element hydro, so they're both represented as a certain symbol in, I guess, Mandarin. So it's not clear whether it was a water-powered timepiece or a hydro, magic, or arcane, some type of magic, timepiece or something like that. So that's curious, that they don't really explain that it's Rostam, but I'm sure people can obviously put that together. Because it says back then she was still a maiden, had not yet embarked on her journey. One cycle was the right time required for her to finish her studies at, the academy. But they don't label it as Sumera, but it is, the Sumera Academia. And then, by the time, the countdown had ended for the timepiece, and she had returned to her hometown, which was Mondstadt. This was 500 years ago, mind you, so I'm guessing this is 500 years ago from when the story takes place, but I could be wrong. Which is also curious because I feel like it has a lot of things in line with Lumine and Aether. Considering that I think Lumine's been at least around for 500 years, and so who knows, man. But obviously, it says its previous owner had become a casualty of the crisis. So Rostam basically had passed away in this battle in Mondstadt. Her maiden years were over. The Crimson Witch of Flame was born, and with her, the era of destruction. The timepiece bore witness to the days of monsters and the pain they caused, until all were burned away. Now, with the Witch's Heart Flame, it's a clear bottle containing liquid fire. The techniques involved in making liquid fire have since been lost. The Crimson Witch of Flame walked upon the earth, burning monsters into cinders. Rumor told of how she sacrificed her mortal body to become the embodiment of liquid fire herself. And then, I guess because she had done that, she was then recruited by the Fatui, the Tsaritsa, having the power of cryo, being the cryo archon, etc., etc. She probably had given her this delusion, this cryo delusion, so that she could basically be able to, in a way, like control her abilities and stuff like that. So control like her pyro powers. We're not even sure if, like, I guess Signora really has a vision, but we do know that she has a delusion, which is cryo. But I'm not sure if, like, pyro is her vision, or if it's just, something that she has the ability, or, like, possesses. So that's also kind of curious, because they don't really know if, I guess, yet, at least, we don't have enough information to tell whether or not, she has a vision, versus, just having the ability to hone pyro skills. So, still love and longing once dwelt in her maiden heart, until fires burned away that beautiful and fragile part. Thus, she became the witch that historians were loath to remember. And then finally, with the witch's scorching hat, it's a traditional witch's pointed hat with large brim. It grants a witch the reverence and fear which she commands. To the Crimson Witch of Flame, this large hat shielded her from surrounding distractions. It was how she was able to hone her pyro skills when she was still an apprentice. In combat, she needed not pay attention to monsters disintegrating in flames, nor did she need to look at her own burnt face in the water's reflection. And so the Crimson Witch continued to burn, blind to the extent of her devastation. So that's pretty cool. Now I want to kind of take a look at, the different boss drops that she has, which are Molten Moments, Hellfire Butterflies, and we also have one other one, I believe, Ashen Hearts, yes. Okay, so hopefully we can just see what they're called. I mean, they should have a description of them, I would think. So let me just try and find that real quick. I probably should have just looked this up and had it prepared. But, that doesn't always work out. So, a certain deformed fragment. So this is about the Molten Moment, which is the flower. A certain deformed fragment containing great might. You obtained this from defeating Signora, who unleashed her original power. I had a long, long dream. I dreamt that you and I met again in the pure white world that we created. But I woke up last, having long been consumed by the raging flames, while you had long returned to the earth, along with that poisoned blood. But none of it matters anymore. I must continue forging ahead. I must incinerate everything behind me. I must believe in that pure, spotless, everlasting realm that he spoke of, that I saw in delusion he let me see. That's curious. At the end of the horizon of Her Majesty's dreams. And I'm guessing Her Majesty is probably, yeah, the Tsaritsa. Cool. Alright, so we'll take a look at, Ashen Heart, and then Hellfire Butterfly, obviously. So, Ashen Heart. A deformed fragment that contains powerful emotions. You obtain this for defeating Signora, who unleashed your original power. I believe that's always said in the beginning 2 sentences. Even tears cannot extinguish the flames. Molten hot agony and rage rush through her veins, oozing from her tear ducts. The first Fatus? I'm not sure. It's Fatuus. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, sorry. Found her just before her heart could be destroyed by the eternal blaze. He understood that only deeper hate and obsession could quench the fire that devoured her and make her his ally. So that was Piero. He also goes, I guess, by the alias, the Jester. He's the number 1 of the 11 Fatui Harbingers, as well as, being the very first member of the Fatui, probably besides, the Tsaritsa. So, he personally has recruited several Harbingers, including Dotor, Pantalone, hopefully that's how you say those names, and obviously Signora, and then it's also rumored that he's also, I guess, recruited Scaramouche, but we learned recently that Scaramouche is actually, I guess, like, not a real person. He's just like a puppet or something, so, I mean, it would make a lot of sense that he was created by him, but they talked about that in Ball's, in the story, like the Archon story quest. They talked about how there was like this Jester. It's similar to like the Raiden Shogun and A. Like they are 2 different entities of the same thing. So maybe Scaramouche is Piero's other entity. That could be a thing. I'm not sure, but sounds possible. So yeah, those are the descriptions of all the different talent level up materials. So after that, we were just going to take a look real quick at the rest of her description. So it says, her origins are pretty unknown, but she lived in Mondstadt roughly 500 years ago. As a maiden, she loved to sing and eventually fell in love with Rostam, which we'll get into in a bit. At some point before the calamity, presumably right before she had left, Rostam gave her that special Hydro piece, so she could keep track of the amount of time that she was away studying at Sumeru. When she had returned, she had learned that Rostam had died in battle against the monsters during the calamity and mourned his loss. After her mourning, she decided to use her life's flame to cleanse the world's crookedness, becoming the Crimson Witch of Flame. She was rumored to have abandoned her mortal body and instead let liquid fire flow through herself. Although she only burned monsters and demons, she was also feared by the people. She was then recruited by the Fatui, by Piero. She was given a crowd delusion to basically suppress her flames, and became known as La Signora, the 8th of the 11 Fatui Harbingers. So, now we're going to get into Rostam. He was a knight of the Knights of Favonius, around, about 500 years ago. He was famed as a wolf pup, and close friend and rival of the Grand Master of the time, Arundel, which I believe, he was one of the previous Grand Masters of the Knights of Favonius. He didn't possess a vision or anything, but he was naturally gifted in combat. He was able to hone his skills and abilities through intense training. Obviously, this video is not really about him, so we're not really going to go too much into that character, but it seems like he was probably a great sword slash, claymore user, like claymore character, obviously. Rostam, he was friends and rivals with Arundel, forging a bond strong enough that after he was slain in battle, Arundel never returned to combat again out of grief. Rostam was a sword user in battle, and his combat style is still practiced by the Knights of Favonius to this day. So, I'm guessing, probably similar to Jean or maybe even Kaya's swordmanship. He also mentored the White Knight, whose pursuit of uncompromising justice eventually turned him into the Bloodstained Knight, which would be, that would be very cool, having a fight, between, and I don't know if this could ever happen, but a fight between the Bloodstained Knight and, a fight between La Signora, two different entities that had some sort of like involvement with Rostam, but they go hand in hand against each other because I believe Bloodstained Knight is currently as part of the Abyss Order right now, and then obviously La Signora is in the Fatui, so that would be really, really cool to have that maybe eventually happen if they're still both alive, which I feel like she'll rise from the ashes. I really do. I don't think that she's gone. I would have a very hard time believing that she's gone. So Rostam and Arundel spent most of their childhood together, first as playmates and then as fellow knights and close friends. He also fell in love with a maiden named Rosalind, back in Mondstadt, as we talked about before. Despite being a Knight of Favonius, Rostam did not shy away from doing dirty work in the background. It is said that he even inherited Cruzlide's secret society, which was formed 1,000 years ago to help Vanessa overthrow the aristocracy. So, I don't think that's really a name people hear a lot about, but basically, I guess she was the Lion Fang Knight, for having an undefeated streak as a gladiator in the Colosseum. I've never heard of her, to be honest, but I have just recently sort of gotten interested in the lore, and I guess her successor currently is Jean, the acting Grandmaster of the Knights of Favonius in Mondstadt, so that's pretty cool, to be honest. So yeah, after the fall, this is talking about his death. After the fall of Conrad's Eclipse Dynasty and the cataclysm that followed, Rostam embarked on an expedition with the Knights of Favonius to exterminate monsters that spewed forth. He died in a battle, however, bringing an end to his career as a Knight of Favonius after 23 years of service. Following his death, Arundel, never took up the sword again. Meanwhile, Rosalind returned to her hometown in Mondstadt after, the time had run up on the timepiece, and to find it destroyed by monsters and Rostam was dead. Out of a desire for revenge, she used liquid fire to transfigure herself and became known as the Crimson Witch of Embers. Then Rosalind would later, eventually join the Fatui and become known as La Signora. One of the other curious trivia things, I guess you could say, is Rostam was one of his mythical figure achievements is actually for slaying Ajdaha, but there's no current known link between Genshin Impact's Rostam and Ajdaha, so that would be cool if that would ever, come about or be revealed. So basically, my idea for making this video, is basically to try and explain why La Signora did some of the things that she did in the very end of the prologue. La Signora, with her confrontation with Venti, Barbados, she knew that was the Animo Urkon, and obviously, I'm sure Venti knew who she was at that point, but the other thing is, he obviously knew that, the Cryo Archon sought the Animo Archon's, abilities and things like that for whatever reason, but, that's what they want the player to think. But, it's really an act of revenge against him, and I feel like that's definitely why, she had done what she did in Mondstadt whenever that scene went down. Like, she kicked him or something. I can't remember exactly what happened, but it was pretty brutal to watch. I mean, it was funny in a way, but it was also brutal because, he looks like a kid, even though he's like a god and he's way older than any of us. But yeah, it's the lore is getting really good in my opinion, and I'm definitely seeing a lot of people start to get into it more, and I really hope that there will be more of this in the coming near future. Hopefully we're gonna get, more consistent story quests. Maybe every 6 weeks we're gonna get another one. But I mean, there was a huge break between the Inazuma start of the story quest and then the end, where, I feel like the last thing we did was we ended with the Abyss Herald and fighting him and things like that with Dainsleif. Besides that, I can't really remember what would have happened before then. So yeah, this was just a little video, hopefully analyzing and explaining better about La Signora, her history with Rostam, and also her history with Barbados/Venti, and why she did what she did when she was in Mondstadt. And I believe that is a very good, idea to say that she was doing that because of the prior things that had happened to Rostam whenever she was gone. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe if you'd like. I will try to upload more videos as I can. I'm really getting into the lore of Genshin Impact right now, so hopefully I can push out a video, maybe, I don't know, a few videos every week or so. Just, I'll let you guys know, and I'll keep you guys updated in the next one. Have a good one.